How consciousness shapes society, and why neutrality is an illusion. Consciousness is often described as something deeply personal, an inner state, a private experience that belongs to the individual alone. It is talked about as awareness, mindfulness, awakening, or insight, usually disconnected from society, politics, culture, or power. But this separation is misleading, because consciousness never exists in a vacuum. It always takes shape within a social context. Every way we perceive the world influences how we interpret reality. Every interpretation shapes decisions. And every decision, no matter how small, participates in a wider social field. This is why the idea of neutral consciousness is an illusion. There is no neutral perspective. There is only conscious or unconscious alignment. When consciousness is described as neutral, what is often meant is unexamined, unquestioned, left untouched by responsibility. But unexamined perspectives do not remain harmless. They quietly reinforce existing structures. Consciousness shapes society not only through action, but through silence, normalization, and omission. What we do not question becomes background. What becomes background becomes reality. In many contemporary spiritual narratives, consciousness is framed as a retreat, an inward movement away from conflict, complexity, and tension. This retreat is often described as transcendence, but in practice, it can become disengagement. Disengagement from social responsibility, disengagement from ethical complexity, disengagement from the consequences of perception. This does not make consciousness purer. It makes it incomplete. Society is not shaped only by political decisions or economic forces. It is shaped by collective narratives. Narratives about success and failure, about worth and productivity, about normality and deviation, about who belongs and who does not. Consciousness participates in these narratives whether we intend it or not. Every spiritual idea carries an implicit social meaning. Every worldview contains assumptions about power, responsibility, and value. To claim neutrality is to leave these assumptions unexamined. And unexamined assumptions do not disappear. They operate silently. This is why Spirit Online approaches consciousness as a societal force, not merely a personal experience. We are interested in how inner perspectives translate into collective realities, how spiritual language influences public discourse, how ideas about awareness affect social behavior, and how inner development interacts with structures of power and influence. This is not about turning spirituality into politics. It is about recognizing that spirituality already shapes how people see the world. The question is not whether consciousness affects society. The question is whether this influence is conscious or unconscious. When consciousness avoids social context, it often presents itself as above conflict. But being above conflict often means standing comfortably within existing systems. Neutrality in complex societies tends to favor the status quo. It allows dominant narratives to remain unchallenged. It allows inequality to appear natural. And it frames discomfort as a personal issue rather than a structural one. This does not mean that consciousness must always take a position. It means it must acknowledge that every position already exists. Refusing to reflect on this does not protect consciousness from distortion. It exposes it to manipulation. Media, culture, and algorithms shape perception constantly. They influence what is visible, what is repeated, and what is ignored. Consciousness that does not account for these influences risks mistaking conditioning for insight. This is especially relevant in digital environments. Attention is curated. Complexity is reduced. Emotion is amplified. In such environments, conscious perspectives require deliberate effort, not to simplify further, but to slow down, to question dominant frames, to notice what is missing, resist instant interpretation. Consciousness shapes society not only through what it affirms, but through what it refuses to accept as normal. This requires presence, and presence requires responsibility. Responsibility does not mean moral certainty. It does not mean having solutions. It means staying in relationship with complexity rather than escaping it. It means recognizing that awareness carries consequences. When consciousness is treated as purely private, its social impact becomes accidental. When it is treated as relational, its impact becomes intentional. Spirit Online exists to explore this relational dimension, not to offer answers, but to create space for reflection, not to define what consciousness should be, but to examine how it operates within society. Because consciousness that ignores its social dimension does not become transcendent. It becomes detached. And detachment is not neutrality. It is withdrawal. In times of cultural polarization, informational overload, and social fragmentation, conscious inquiry matters more than ever. Not as a solution, but as an orientation. Orientation means understanding where one stands, internally and socially. It means recognizing that inner clarity and social responsibility are not opposites. They are connected. Consciousness shapes society, whether we acknowledge it or not. The only real choice is whether we participate consciously. If you value depth, clarity, and conscious perspective, you're welcome to subscribe to this channel. More articles and essays are available at spiritonline.de. Thank you for being here.